Good evening. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News. This week, President Donald Trump sat behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office and signed what may become one of the most consequential immigration enforcement bills of his second term, the Secure America Act. The legislation provided nearly $70 billion in funding for immigration and customs, enforcement and customs, and border protection throughout the end of President Trump's current term in office. The supporters of strong immigration enforcement, the signing represents a major political victory. For opponents, it represents something else entirely. But regardless of where one stands politically, one thing is undeniable. After months of partisan warfare in Washington, the debate is no longer about whether immigration enforcement agencies will receive funding. The debate is over. The bill is now a law, and the reality that many Republicans celebrating and many Democrats are fuming. The road to passage was anything but easy. The Senate spent nearly 18 hours conducting a marathon vote-a-rama before ultimately passing the legislation by a vote of 52 to 47. The House following it with even a narrower vote, approving the measures from 214 to 212. Notably, every House Democrat voted against the legislation, every single one. Republicans argue the fact alone tells the voters everything they need to know about the modern immigration debate in Washington. Supporters of the bill say Republicans spent months fighting to secure funding for federal officers tasked with enforcing immigration law, while Democrats remain united in opposition. Now, Democrats would argue that oppose the bill because the concerns over enforcement priorities and oversight. That is their right, but Republicans are already asking a simple question. If border security remains one of the top concerns among American voters, why oppose funding the agents responsible for carrying it out? That question is likely to become a central political issue heading into the midterm elections. Let's talk about the numbers. The Secure America Act allocated approximately $38 billion to ICE. Another $26 billion goes to Customs and Border Protection and Border Patrol operations. Additional funding supports recruitment efforts, technology upgrades, anti-trafficking initiatives, and efforts aimed at combating transnational criminal organizations. Supporters argue this is not simply spending. They argue it's an investment in enforcement, an investment in border security, an investment in giving federal officers the resources they need to do their job. Republicans have long argued that Washington routinely approved massive spending packages for a variety of domestic programs while simultaneously hesitating when it comes to funding immigration enforcement. The Secure America Act represents as an effort to reverse that trend, and supporters say it's long overdue. What may be the most interesting about the legislation is not about the dollar amount, it's about the contrast it creates. For years, immigration has been one of the most polarized issues in American politics. Republicans generally argue that immigration law must be enforced consistently and that border security is a prerequisite for national security. Many Democrats emphasize humanitarian concerns, asylum protections, and border immigration reforms. Those competing visions have defined the debate for decades. The Secure America Act does not resolve the debate. Far from it. What it does is demonstrate which side currently possesses the political mantra. Republicans control the White House, Republicans secure passes of the bill, and Republicans can now point to a tangible legislation accomplishment on an issue that has constantly ranked among voters' top concerns. That is the political reality Democrats cannot ignore. Supporters of the legislation argue that the bill is strengthening efforts to combat illegal immigration, human trafficking, drug smuggling, and cartel activity. They point to fentanyl crisis, ongoing concerns about transnational criminal organizations, and continued security challenges amongst the southern border. Their argument is straightforward. If federal agents are expected to enforce the law, they need adequate funding to do so. Without personnel, technology, detection capacity, and operational support, enforcement becomes increasingly difficult. Republicans believe that the Secure America Act addresses those concerns directly. Whether voters agree will ultimately be determined at the ballot box. The Democrat parties now face a difficult political challenge. Republicans are almost certain to campaign on the legislation. They will point to the funding package as evidence that they delivered on the promises made during the 2024 and 2025 election cycle. Democrats, meanwhile, will likely continue arguing that enforcement alone is insufficient and the border immigration reforms remain necessary. That debate will continue, but politically speaking, the Republicans now possess a clear legislation achievement that they can point to. And in Washington, accomplishments matter. Voters may disagree about policy, they may disagree about the funding level, they may disagree about immigration enforcement priorities, but they cannot say nothing happened. Something happened. A major bill passed in Congress, a president signed it into law, and federal government immigration enforcement agents now have years of guaranteed funding. Whether one views the Secure America Act as a landmark victory or controversial policy, decisions depend largely on political perspective. But from a Republican viewpoint, this week represents something many supporters may be demanding for years. Action. Not another hearing, not another commission, not another press conference. Action. The administration asked Congress for long-term funding. Congress approved it, and President Trump signed it. The result is a law that will shape immigration enforcement policies for years to come. And judging by the reaction from both parties, the political battle over immigration is far from over. In fact, it may only be the entering a new chapter. I'm Haylee Ficuciello, Senior Correspondent for Englebrook Independent News. Thank you for joining us tonight, and good night.